Captain James Miller hated diplomacy. He hated the fake smiles, the empty words, and most of all, he hated sitting across from the beings who had killed millions of his people. Yet here he was, in the gleaming meeting room of Nexus 7 space station, watching Ambassador Lisa Reed try once again to reason with the Vorn. "The terms you propose are unacceptable," Lisa said calmly. "Earth cannot withdraw from the Orion sector. Those colonies have been established for decades." The lead Vorn representative, Commander Crix, clicked his mandibles together. His exoskeleton gleamed under the bright lights. 6 limbs remained perfectly still as he spoke. "Those territories fall within Dominion space by ancient right. Your presence there is an invasion." James clenched his fist under the table. The Vorn had never even visited those systems until humans terraformed them. Now they claimed ancient rights to the planets. "Perhaps we can establish a joint administration," Lisa suggested. James stood up. "I need a break." This was the 3rd year of peace talks. 3 years of getting nowhere. Outside the meeting room, James leaned against the viewport. Earth was just a blue dot from here, barely visible among the stars. He thought of the war, of the ships he'd lost, the crews who died under his command. His communicator buzzed. "Captain Miller." "Sir, you need to see this." It was Tom, his security officer. "Found something in our quarters." James met Tom in the human delegation's living area. Tom pointed to a small device hidden behind a vent. "Surveillance. Advanced. Not standard station security." James studied the bug. "Vorn technology." "Yes, sir. There's more." "Found 6 so far." James felt a cold anger settle in his stomach. The Vorn were spying on private conversations while pretending to negotiate peace. "Keep this quiet. I want to know what else they're hiding." That night, James couldn't sleep. He pulled up classified reports on his secure tablet. Something didn't add up in the Vorn behavior. They dragged out negotiations, made impossible demands, yet never broke off talks. Why? The answer came 3 days later. James was reviewing patrol data from the neutral zone when he noticed discrepancies in the sensor logs. Some areas showed unusual energy readings that were dismissed as background radiation. He ran his own analysis program. The pattern was clear. Consistent energy spikes at regular intervals. Not random at all. "Tom, I need a ship. Unofficial. Can you arrange it?" 20 hours later, their small scout vessel dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the coordinates James had calculated. "Sensors active, sir. Running silent as requested." James watched the screen as data flowed in. Then he saw it. "Magnify that section." The image cleared to show a massive structure. A Vorn military base under construction. In the demilitarized zone. "How many?" James asked. Tom checked the readings. "I'm picking up 7 similar energy signatures in this sector alone." They were building a war fleet right under everyone's noses. Back at Nexus 7, James found Lisa in her office. "They're preparing for war," he said, dropping the evidence on her desk. "The peace talks are just a distraction." Lisa studied the images. "This is concerning, but not conclusive. We need to bring this up through proper channels while they finish building their attack fleet. We can't just walk away from peace, James. It's not peace they want." Later that night, James intercepted a transmission. The encryption was complex, but his military override codes cracked it. The message was clear. The Vorn High Command had ordered their forces to prepare for a surprise attack on the Newton and Galileo colonies. The estimated casualties were in the millions. The attack would launch while peace talks continued. James made his decision. The next day, as the delegations gathered, James walked into the meeting room with Tom and 2 armed guards. "Captain Miller, what is the meaning of this?" Lisa asked, rising from her chair. James ignored her and faced the Vorn delegation. "The talks are over," he said simply. He activated a projector that displayed the Vorn battle plans for all to see. Commander Crix's mandibles clicked rapidly, the Vorn equivalent of shock. You have built military installations in neutral territory. You have planned attacks on civilian colonies. You never wanted peace. James turned to address the cameras that broadcasted to the galaxy. Humanity hereby withdraws from these negotiations. We will not pretend to talk peace with those who plan our destruction. Lisa grabbed his arm. James, you can't do this. The consequences will be severe. Commander Crix interrupted, standing to his full height. You have no idea what you have done, human. James looked him directly in his compound eyes. Actually, I do. I've just stopped you from killing millions while we sat here talking. As he walked out of the room, emergency alarms began to sound throughout the station. The first reports of conflicts at the borders were already coming in. Humanity had quit the peace talks. And just like that, chaos erupted. News spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Humans had walked out of peace talks with the Vorn. On 12 different worlds, stock markets crashed. Trade routes closed. Ships changed course. Military vessels moved to defensive positions. James Miller stood in Admiral Tom Gray's office on Earth, facing the consequences of his actions. Do you have any idea what you've done? Gray's voice was quiet but sharp. His weathered face showed both anger and worry. The Galactic Council is calling for sanctions against Earth. 3 trade alliances have suspended relations. I did what was necessary, James replied. The Vorn were planning to attack Newton and Galileo colonies. Millions would have died. Gray tossed a datapad onto his desk. This is your official reprimand. You broke chain of command, violated diplomatic protocols, and potentially triggered a galaxy-wide conflict. James accepted the pad without looking at it. Gray walked to the window overlooking the Pacific Ocean. After a long moment, he spoke again, his voice different. Off the record. Good job. James looked up in surprise. We've suspected the Vorn were stalling for years. Never had the proof. Gray turned back. But now we're in one hell of a mess. On the main screen, reports flooded in from across human space. Vorn propaganda claimed humans had fabricated evidence to escape treaty obligations. 3 previously neutral species announced military pacts with the Vorn. The ancient Trell Trading Guild closed all routes to human worlds. The Vorn are painting us as warmongers, Gray said. And it's working. Sir, The door burst open. Ambassador Lisa Reed stormed in, her usually perfect appearance now disheveled from emergency meetings. Captain Miller. The peace talks took 3 years to arrange. 3 years. And you destroyed them in 3 minutes. Her voice shook with anger. The Vorn were never negotiating in good faith, James replied. You saw the evidence. Evidence we could have used properly. Now we look like the aggressors. Lisa turned to Gray. The Galactic Council is meeting in emergency session. They're discussing a multi-species blockade of human space. Gray's face darkened. That would cripple our outer colonies. A soft knock at the door interrupted them. A thin man with glasses stood there, looking uncertain. Sorry to intrude. I was told to report here. He clutched a datapad nervously. Who are you? Gray demanded. Professor Mark Wilson. Cynobiology. I study Vorn behavior patterns. Gray waved him in impatiently. We need solutions, not academic observations. Actually, sir, Mark said, finding his courage, I think Captain Miller may have accidentally done exactly the right thing. They all stared at him. Mark activated his datapad. The Vorn operate on hive principles. Their social structure values strength above all. Diplomacy, to them, equals weakness. He showed them charts of Vorn behavior patterns. For 3 years, they've made increasingly aggressive demands because our willingness to negotiate signaled vulnerability in their worldview. Lisa frowned. That's absurd. Diplomacy is how civilized species resolve differences. To humans, yes. To the Vorn. Mark shook his head. It's an opportunity to identify weakness. By walking away, Captain Miller did something they understand. Showed strength. As if confirming his words, the main screen displayed breaking news. A Vorn border fleet had withdrawn from the Newton system. That doesn't make sense, Lisa said. If they're preparing for war. They're reassessing, Mark explained. In their culture, worthy opponents deserve caution. James studied the professor. You're saying they respect us more now that we've stopped talking. Precisely. Though respect might be too human a concept, recategorized might be better. You're no longer weak prey. You're a potential threat. Gray paced the room. So what happens now? Chaos, Mark said simply. The galaxy expected humans to submit eventually. No one predicted this outcome. Species are scrambling to realign based on new power calculations. On the screen, reports showed skirmishes breaking out in 3 different systems. None involved humans directly, but all were connected to shifting alliances. We've triggered a galactic realignment, Lisa said softly. James looked at the tactical display. The Vorn are still moving forces, but not toward our colonies anymore. They're securing their own borders. Fascinating, Mark whispered. They're defensive now. Gray turned to James. Captain, I'm giving you a new assignment. Form a small team. I want options for dealing with this mess you've created. Yes, sir. As James left the office, his communicator beeped with an encrypted message. The sender was unknown, but the content made his blood run cold. Human Captain, you see truth. Vorn Dominion divided on warpath. Some of us wish different future. Meet, coordinates follow. It was signed, Young Vorn. The chaos had only just begun. This is insane, Lisa said, staring at the plan on the screen. Absolutely insane. James, Admiral Gray, Professor Wilson, and a small team had worked for 3 days straight in a secure underground facility. The result was what they now called Operation Wildcard. Conventional warfare won't work against the Vorn, James explained. They outnumber us 5-1. Their technology matches ours, and they think as one mind. Gray nodded. So we don't fight conventionally. The plan was unlike anything in Earth's military history. No massive fleets, no direct confrontations. Instead, they would launch small, unpredictable strikes that made no strategic sense, at least not to Vorn thinking. The Vorn expect patterns, Professor Wilson said. Their entire civilization is built on predictable behavior. We need to be the opposite. Earth's leaders will never approve this, Lisa warned. It's too risky. As if on cue, Gray's secure communicator beeped. The news was grim. Vorn ships had been detected moving toward human space in large numbers. We're out of time, Gray said. I'm approving Operation Wildcard. 24 hours later, James sat in the captain's chair of the Spectre, a small stealth ship with a crew of just 15. Their target, a hidden Vorn weapons facility that James had discovered during his unauthorized scouting mission. Are you sure about these coordinates? Asked Tom, now serving as James's second-in-command. Positive, James replied. They don't know we found this place. The facility orbited a small moon in a system the Vorn claimed was uninhabited. It was a perfect target for their first strike. Approaching target, the pilot announced. No signs they've detected us. James activated the ship-wide comm. Remember the plan. We go in fast. We place the devices. We leave. No heroics. No deviations. The Spectre slipped past the facility's outer defenses using technology developed from studying the Vorn surveillance devices. They docked at a maintenance port, and James led a team of 6 inside. The facility was massive. Weapons of all kinds were being produced by automated systems, enough to arm a fleet that could destroy Earth's colonies. Charges set, reported one of the team members. Each explosive was placed at a critical junction. Now for the message, James said. At the facility's central control room, James uploaded a simple video message to play just before detonation. Then they returned to the ship and pulled away. From a safe distance, they watched as the facility erupted in a series of precise explosions. Not enough to destroy it completely, just enough to cripple it. Message delivered, Tom said. Back on Earth, reactions to the first strike were mixed. You blew up a weapons facility just to leave a message. Lisa was incredulous. What message could possibly be worth that risk? James played the recording they had left. On screen, James appeared in his full military uniform. To the Vorn High Command, we see you. This facility was supposed to be secret. Your fleet movements were supposed to be hidden. Nothing you do is hidden from us now. We will not attack your worlds. We will not harm your people. But we will not allow you to build weapons against us. This is your only warning. The recording ended. That's it. Lisa asked. That's the big strategy. Telling them we see them. Professor Wilson smiled for the first time. It's perfect. The Vorn believe their strength comes from collective knowledge that their enemies don't share. Captain Miller just told them that advantage is gone. Over the next week, the strategy continued. A small team disabled a Vorn communications relay. Another intercepted and released private Vorn military communications. A third painted human symbols on a Vorn monument and disappeared without a trace. None of the attacks caused significant damage. None targeted Vorn lives. But each one demonstrated that humans could strike anywhere, anytime, without warning. The Vorn are confused, Professor Wilson reported, reviewing intercepted communications. Their commanders are arguing about our strategy. They can't predict where we'll strike next because there's no pattern. Admiral Gray studied the galactic map. Something unexpected was happening. Several species that had allied with the Vorn were now declaring neutrality. Others were quietly reaching out to Earth. It's working, Gray said. They're watching what we do. They're reevaluating. James looked at the latest intelligence reports. The Vorn fleet that had been heading toward human space had stopped advancing. Instead, they were fortifying their own territories, spreading thin to protect countless potential targets. We've changed the game, James said. Now we need to push further. His communicator beeped with an encrypted message. The same unknown sender as before. Human Captain, you understand. The old ones fear you now. Time to meet. I bring valuable gift. The message included coordinates for a meeting, deep in neutral territory. The human strategy was just beginning. James Miller checked his weapon one last time before entering the abandoned mining station. The coordinates from the mysterious young Vorn had led him here, to the edge of settled space. I don't like this, Tom said, scanning the dark corridor ahead. Feels like a trap. That's why you're staying with the ship, James replied. If I'm not back in 30 minutes, leave. Tom wanted to argue but nodded. James had insisted on meeting the contact alone. The station was cold and silent. Emergency lights cast long shadows as James made his way to the central hub. His footsteps echoed in the emptiness. When he reached the hub, he saw a figure waiting in the darkness, not a Vorn. Captain Miller. The voice was soft, melodic. The figure stepped forward, revealing a tall, willowy alien with silver skin. I am sure of the Trell. James kept his hand near his weapon. The Trell were a nomadic trading species who had cut ties with humanity after the peace talks collapsed. Where's my Vorn contact? James demanded. Coming. But first, we talk. Schur gestured to a dusty console. The Trell have watched your unusual strategy against the Vorn. We are impressed. We're not looking for approval. No, you are looking for survival. Schur's silver eyes blinked slowly. As are we. The Vorn have taken 6 Trell trading posts in the past year. Your actions have distracted them. Before James could respond, a door hissed open. A Vorn entered, smaller than most, with a blue-tinted exoskeleton rather than the typical brown. Human Captain, the Vorn's voice was higher-pitched than James was used to. I am Mecht. I speak for the young. James studied this unusual Vorn. You said you had a gift. Mecht approached the console and inserted a crystalline object. Data streams appeared in the air between them. Vorn fleet movements, defense codes, communication protocols. James stared at the information. If real, it was worth more than 100 battleships. "Why would you betray your own kind?" he asked. Mech's mandibles clicked softly. The old ones speak of unity, but force obedience. They see all other species as prey. The young see possibilities. An internal conflict, James realized. Your hive is splitting. Yes, your unpredictable actions have created questions. Questions are forbidden. Schur stepped forward. The Trell propose an alliance. We have intelligence networks across 20 systems. We offer them to Earth. James was stunned. A week ago, Earth stood alone against the Vorn. Now potential allies were appearing from nowhere. His communicator beeped urgently. Tom's voice came through, tense with excitement. "Captain, you need to get back here now. We've got visitors. Big ones." When James returned to the ship, he found Tom standing nervously before 3 tall metallic figures. Their bodies gleamed like polished chrome, with glowing blue eyes. "The Orcs," James whispered. The machine race was known for their advanced technology and complete neutrality in all conflicts. Captain James Miller, the center figure, spoke, its voice perfectly modulated. "We have analyzed your tactical approach against the Vorn. It contains a 74.3% probability of success through psychological disruption rather than material destruction." "Oh, thanks. This is optimal. The Orcs have calculated that Vorn expansion threatens long-term galactic stability by 89.7%. The machine's eyes pulsed. "We offer tactical support." Back on Earth, Admiral Gray could hardly believe the reports. The Trell, a Vorn splinter faction, and the Orcs, all wanting to work with us. He shook his head in amazement. "What did you do out there, Miller?" "Apparently, being unpredictable makes us valuable," James replied. "Professor Wilson studied the data from the Vorn defector. This confirms my theory. The Vorn collective is not as unified as they pretend. The younger generation is developing individualized thoughts." Lisa entered the room, looking tired but excited. "The Galactic Council has called another emergency session. 3 more species have broken ties with the Vorn and requested protection from Earth." "From us?" Gray asked. "We're the smallest player in this game." "But the most interesting," James said. "No one knows what we'll do next, including us." 2 days later, they'd put their new alliances to the test. Using Trell intelligence, Orcs technology, and information from the young Vorn, they executed a plan against a massive Vorn fleet gathering near the Newton colony. No shots were fired. No ships were destroyed. Instead, using the Vorn's own communication codes, they'd broadcasted false orders that sent the fleet into disarray. Half the ships retreated. Others went to wrong coordinates. The perfectly coordinated attack fell apart. "This is impossible." A Vorn commander's message was intercepted. "How do the humans predict our movements before we make them?" James smiled as he listened to the confusion. "We don't predict. We create." For the first time since the war began, James felt real hope. They had stumbled upon a powerful truth. Against an enemy that prized order above all, chaos itself was the ultimate weapon, and humans were masters of chaos. Victory celebrations on Earth ended abruptly. Admiral Gray burst into the strategy room, where James and his team were planning their next operation. His face was ashen. "The Newton colony is gone," he said, his voice hollow. The room fell silent. "What do you mean, gone?" James asked. Gray activated the main screen. The images showed the colony world from orbit. Where cities once stood, only black patches remained. "They hit 3 colonies simultaneously," Gray continued. "Newton, Galileo, and Armstrong. Some kind of biological weapon. It targets human DNA specifically. Professor Wilson studied the data. This is advanced. The toxin breaks down in hours, leaving the planets habitable for the Vorn. Casualties. James could barely form the word. Newton had 4 million colonists. Galileo, 2 million. Armstrong, 800,000. Gray's voice broke. There were no survivors. James felt the room spin. Nearly 7 million people gone in an instant. Was this his fault? Had his strategy pushed the Vorn too far? Lisa entered, her eyes red from crying. The Galactic Council is in uproar. Even species allied with the Vorn are condemning this attack. They're calling it the cleansing. James stared at the images of the dead worlds. This is my responsibility. No, Gray said firmly. This is the Vorn showing their true nature. This is why we walked away from those talks. Mecht, their young Vorn contact, arrived hours later with urgent news. The old ones have activated the final protocol. Mecht's mandibles clicked rapidly in distress. The cleansing was Phase 1. Phase 2 targets all non-Vorn worlds. Professor Wilson recorded the meeting. Your leaders plan to attack everyone. The peace talks were always a deception, Mecht explained. The Vorn High Command sees all individual consciousness species as evolutionary dead ends. Only the Hive should survive. We need to warn the other species, James said. Gray nodded. Lisa, call every diplomatic contact. The Vorn aren't just our enemy now. Within days, representatives from 27 species gathered on Earth. Former enemies sat beside old friends, all united by a common threat. The Trell provided evidence of Vorn weapon stockpiles near their worlds. The Arcs shared analysis, showing the Vorn had studied the biology of every major species, likely developing targeted weapons for each. They never planned to coexist with any of us, Lisa told the gathering. The peace talks were just buying time. James listened as the species debated strategy. Some wanted to attack Vorn colonies in retaliation. Others suggested evacuating vulnerable worlds. Neither will work, James interrupted, standing up. The Vorn think collectively. Attacking their colonies just reinforces their belief that we're threats to be eliminated, and we can't evacuate fast enough. What do you propose, human? Asked the Arxer representative. We need to strike at what makes them Vorn, their hive mind. Professor Wilson had been studying Mecht and the information from other young Vorn. He displayed his findings. The Vorn telepathic connection requires synchronized signals from their central hive. If we could disrupt that synchronization, their unity would fracture. Mecht finished. Individual thought would emerge. Is that possible? Gray asked. Theoretically, Wilson replied. I've designed a device that could interfere with their telepathic frequency, but it would need to be activated from inside their main hive chamber on the Vorn homeworld. The room fell silent again. The Vorn homeworld was the most heavily defended planet in the galaxy. That's a suicide mission, Tom said. James looked at the images of the dead colonies again. I'll go. You can't, Lisa protested. It's too dangerous. I started this when I walked out of those peace talks, James said quietly. I need to finish it. Plans formed quickly. The Arxer would provide stealth technology beyond anything humans had. The Trell knew secret routes through Vorn space. Young Vorn like Mecht would provide access codes. As preparations continued, James received a secure message from Admiral Gray. He read it alone in his quarters. Captain Miller, I'm sending you and your team on this mission because I know you'll do whatever it takes. But understand this. The device Wilson created doesn't just disrupt the Vorn hive mind. According to our tests, it will destroy it completely. 7 million of our people died. The Vorn leadership must answer for that. This isn't just about saving ourselves anymore. James stared at the message for a long time before deleting it. 3 days later, as James's small team prepared to depart, Lisa came to see him. I was wrong about the peace talks, she admitted. They were never real. We both wanted peace, James replied. We just found different paths to it. As his ship departed Earth, James wondered if he would ever see it again. To save humanity, He would have to become the greatest chaos agent the galaxy had ever known. The Vorn homeworld looked beautiful from space. Swirling blue oceans, green landmasses, and white clouds made it appear peaceful and inviting. James knew better. "Final system check complete," said Alex Barnes, the team's tech specialist and James's oldest friend. Orcs stealth systems functioning perfectly. Their small ship, disguised with the latest technology from their machine allies, approached the planet undetected. 6 people made up the team. James, Alex, 2 Special Forces soldiers named Ben and Mike, a Trell navigator called Shur, and Mecht, their young Vorn ally. "The Queen Chamber is located beneath the central hive city," Mecht explained, pointing to a map. "It houses the telepathic amplifiers that connect all Vorn minds." Professor Wilson's device sat in a reinforced case. It looked simple, a metal sphere with glowing blue lines, but it contained technology from 3 different species. "Remember," James told the team, "our mission is to place the device and activate it. We're not here for revenge." The words felt hollow even as he said them. Every team member had lost someone in the colony attacks. Their ship landed in a remote area where the thick jungle provided cover. As they stepped outside, the air was thick and humid. Strange sounds echoed from the dense vegetation. "The central hive is 20 kilometers in that direction," Mecht said. "We must move quickly. The old ones have increased security since your attacks began." They moved through the jungle for hours. Twice they had to hide as Vorn patrol ships flew overhead. Mecht led them through secret paths known only to the young Vorn. "Our numbers grow daily," Mecht told James as they walked. "Many question the wisdom of exterminating other species." "Why?" James asked. "What changed?" "Your chaos," Mecht replied simply. "It made us think differently." Individual thoughts. The old ones fear this above all else. By nightfall, they reached the outskirts of the hive city. The structure was enormous, a towering mass of organic and metallic materials that stretched for kilometers. "The main entrance is heavily guarded," Mecht said, "but there is another way." The other way turned out to be maintenance tunnels used by worker drones. Mecht provided codes that allowed them to enter undetected. "These tunnels lead directly to the lower levels," Mecht explained. "The Queen Chamber is 5 levels down." The inside of the hive was like nothing James had ever seen. Walls pulsed with a strange light. Vorn of various sizes moved with perfect coordination, never bumping into each other, never hesitating. "They're all connected," Alex whispered in awe. "One giant organism." "Not for long," Ben replied grimly. They descended deeper into the hive, avoiding patrols and security measures thanks to Mecht's guidance. The young Vorn seemed increasingly nervous. "Something is wrong," Mecht said suddenly. "The path to the Queen Chamber should be here." They had reached a dead end. The passage Mecht expected was sealed with a thick barrier. They've changed the layout. Mecht's mandibles clicked rapidly. The old ones must suspect something. Alex scanned the barrier with Arxer technology. "I can get through this, but it'll take time." "Time we don't have," James said as alarms began to sound throughout the hive. "They know we're here," Shur said, her silver skin reflecting the pulsing red lights. Alex worked frantically on the barrier while the others prepared defenses. Distant sounds of Vorn soldiers grew louder. "Almost there," Alex reported. The barrier began to melt under his tools. When it finally opened, they rushed through and froze in shock. "This is impossible," Mecht said, mandibles twitching in confusion. "The chamber cannot be moved." "It's a trap," James realized. They knew we were coming. The first Vorn soldiers appeared at the corridor behind them. Ben and Mike opened fire, holding them back temporarily. "We need to retreat," Shur shouted. "Too late for that," Alex said, checking his scanner. "They're coming from all directions." James made a decision. New plan. We fight our way to the surface and call for extraction. They battled through corridor after corridor, but the Vorn kept coming. Near a junction, a plasma blast hit Alex in the chest. He fell, mortally wounded. "Go," Alex gasped, pressing the device into James's hands. "I'll hold them off." "I won't leave you," James insisted. Alex smiled weakly. "Too stubborn to follow orders, Captain." Just like always. He pushed James away. Some chaos is worth dying for. With his remaining strength, Alex sealed the door between them and turned to face the approaching Vorn alone. The survivors fought their way upward, but were separated in the confusion. When James finally reached the surface with Mech, only they remained. The others were captured or dead. As they ran toward the extraction point, Vorn ships filled the sky. "We failed," James said bitterly, still clutching the device. In desperation, James activated it, even though they were nowhere near the hive's telepathic center. Nothing happened. Or so he thought. James and Mech barely escaped the Vorn homeworld. Their ship limped through space, damaged by pursuit fighters. James stared at the device in his hands, Professor Wilson's failed creation. "It didn't work," he said bitterly. Alex died for nothing. Mech sat motionless in the corner, mandibles clicking softly. "Something is happening." "What do you mean?" "I feel different. The voices are changing." 3 days later, they reached the human fleet positioned at the edge of Trell space. Admiral Gray was waiting when they docked. "The mission failed," James reported, his voice hollow. "We lost Ben, Mike, and Sher. Alex sacrificed himself to save us. The Queen chamber was empty. I activated the device anyway, but nothing happened." Gray studied him for a moment. "Are you sure about that?" He led James to the command center. The main screen showed chaos across Vorn space. Vorn ships firing on each other. Vorn colonies in uprising. "What am I looking at?" James asked. "It started about 12 hours after your mission," Gray explained. "Vorn communications became erratic. Then their ships began acting independently instead of in coordination. Now we're seeing what appears to be civil war." Professor Wilson rushed in, excited. "Captain, your activation of the device worked, just not how we expected." "Explain," James demanded. "The device wasn't close enough to destroy their hive mind," Wilson said. "Instead, it amplified the natural variations between individual Vorn. Their telepathic connection still exists, but it's no longer forcing complete unity." Mech stepped forward. "The old ones always suppressed individual thoughts. Now each Vorn hears all thoughts equally, including the young Vorn's desire for change," James realized. Reports flowed in from across the galaxy. On 17 Vorn worlds, younger Vorn had taken control from the old leadership. On others, civil war raged between factions. "We didn't destroy them," James said. "We gave them choice." 2 weeks later, a delegation of young Vorn arrived at Earth. Mech led them into the Grand Chamber where representatives from 27 species waited. "We speak for the new Vorn Collective," Mech announced. "We seek true peace, not domination." Lisa stepped forward as Earth's ambassador. "How can we trust you after what the Vorn did to our colonies?" "We offer justice," Mech replied. "The old ones responsible for the attacks have been removed from power. We offer reparations and a sharing of our biotechnology to help heal worlds damaged in the conflict." "And the weapons targeted at other species?" asked the Trell representative. "Being destroyed as we speak," Mech assured them. "The new collective believes in coexistence, not extinction." The negotiations that followed were unlike any before. The new Vorn spoke as individuals while maintaining their connection. They understood both collective and individual thinking in a way no species had before. James watched from the back of the room. He had expected to face court-martial upon his return. Instead, he found himself celebrated as a hero, the man who saved not just humanity, but perhaps all individual thinking species. After the formal meetings ended, James visited the memorial built for those lost in the colony attacks. 7 million names covered the walls. Among them, He found the names of Alex's family on Newton Colony. "I thought I'd find you here," Lisa said, joining him. "I keep thinking about all those who died." James replied, "Was there a better way?" "The Vorn were never going to allow true peace," Lisa said gently. "You saw that before any of us. Sometimes walking away from false peace is the only path to real peace." As they stood there, a small Vorn approached, much younger than Mecht, with a bright green exoskeleton. "Captain Miller," the young Vorn asked. "I am Tick. I wished to thank you." "Thank me? For what?" "For the gift of chaos," Tick replied. "Before, we all thought as one. Now we think as many who choose to work as one. It is freedom." That evening, James stood with Lisa on the observation deck, looking at the stars. Ships from a dozen species moved through Earth's orbit, allies, traders, and even tourists eager to visit the world that changed galactic history. "Funny thing about chaos," James said. "From the outside, it looks like disorder. But sometimes it's actually a more complex kind of order." "Is that what you planned all along?" Lisa asked with a smile. James laughed. "No, I just knew that doing the unexpected was our only chance." "Well, quitting those peace talks certainly qualified as unexpected," Lisa replied. "And chaos definitely erupted. The best kind of chaos," James said, watching the stars. "The kind that builds something new." From across the galaxy, the message spread: never push humans to their breaking point. When humans quit peace talks, chaos erupts. But from that chaos comes a new and better order. That was the most human thing of all.